Give me 1 second, guys. Let me just make sure the audio is fine. Stand by for 1 second. Give me 1 second. All right, the audio sounds crystal clear on my end. What is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. What's going on, everyone? I hope we're all doing pretty well. And as you can see, I am back in my, I don't want to say old setup because it's only been a month and a half. But yeah, I am back for the week from school, obviously due to Hurricane Ian. So I am obviously back due to the result of that. My school was shut down for the remainder of the week. So all my classes were at least. So I was like, no point in sitting there. Let's just go home and I could watch the Met game from there and rage or scream in enjoyment. So yeah, we are back in the old setup probably for the next stream or two. So definitely always like that. Trust me, I like this setup. It's much better than doing the streams on my little Apple computer. It's much better on this. So yeah, what is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden J here. Hopefully everyone is doing extremely well. I am most certainly doing well today. We got some great stuff to talk about in today's stream. Getting things started off, we are going to be going over the New York Mets and the Oakland Athletics series summary, summarizing everything that went well, went wrong, pretty much the good, the ugly, and the bad of that series. So yeah, we're pretty much going to be recapping that, talking about all of that great stuff. Then, of course, we are going to transition into the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins series preview. We're going to be previewing that series, what to look out for, what to keep an eye on with the Mets and the Marlins, obviously. So there is a 2-game set starting in about an hour. Obviously, I do usually do these streams a little bit earlier, but I was traveling today, so I didn't really have enough time to do it before. So we're here now. But yeah, we're going to be going over that. Then, of course, we're going to be going over all of your guys' comments, questions, concerns related to the New York Mets. It could be, I know it says Mets talk, but it's really baseball talk, really. So, yeah, let's stop wasting any more time and let's dive into that. Like I said, if you guys have any comments, any questions, anything, don't hesitate it below. So, yeah, let's stop wasting any more time and let's dive into it. So, getting things started with the New York Mets. The Mets played a 3-game series in Oakland against the Oakland Athletics. Obviously, getting started on game 1, the New York Mets won this game big time by a score of 9-2. You had Chris Bassitt on the bump for the New York Metropolitans, and obviously he was back in his home ballpark, so definitely some nostalgia there. Give me 1 second. So definitely some nostalgia there for him. And Bassitt looked really good out there. 8 innings in total, only surrendering 6 hits and 2 runs with a walk and 2 strikeouts. So a lot of ground balls, a lot of light contact. Nothing too crazy for Bassitt. He looked really, really well. He got out of, the first 3, 4, 5 innings clean. 7th, 8th inning, he started to, dial down, obviously, because his pitch count was getting up there. But he looked really good. He was mixing up his pitch as well. He was throwing inside to the lefties. Overall, very impressive start from Chris Bassitt. I absolutely loved what I saw from Chris Bassitt this night. Obviously, big outing from Bassitt, going 8 innings. So it definitely gave the bullpen a huge rest, big time. So hopefully he can continue to amaze the New York Mets pitching staff and help out this bullpen big time. Getting into the bullpen, it was only Drew Smith that came in to close things out. Obviously, Drew Smith had a big enough lead. Only an inning, striking out 1, 13 pitches. 7 of those were in the strike zone. So yeah, like I said, very impressive outing once again from this Mets pitching staff. Very much needed. Getting into the offense, which is really where things shined. The New York Mets offense came out big time, scoring 9 runs with a total of 13 hits, something that I think any Met fan or any baseball fan would love to see of their team. So, yeah, really good to see the Mets pull that off. Getting things started with the scoring, heading on into the 2nd inning. Mark Vientos had an RBI single to shallow right to bring in Pete Alonso for the first run of this game. So good to see Vientos with his first major league RBI. Couple bats later, Brandon Nimmo comes up, and Brandon Nimmo has an RBI single, 2-run RBI single to bring in Jeff McNeil and Darren Ruff. Heading on into the 5th inning, a little bit goes by. Eduardo Escobar hits a grand slam, which was a home run, obviously, 378 feet to right. So good to see Escobar really go Eduardo Escobar, as I like to say on the channel. Obviously, Escobar brought in himself, Nimmo, Canna, and Alonso all coming in to score. So really good to see the Mets really blowing up this game quickly. Heading on, a couple bats following that, Mark Vientos once again gets into some more action and really shows who he could really be. Mark Vientos has an RBI double, obviously to bring in Jeff McNeil. And then to put the icing on the cake, Jeff McNeil has a deep RBI double to right center to bring in Eduardo Escobar. It was this close from leaving the ballpark. So, I mean, really unfortunate it didn't leave, but what are you going to do? Coliseum is not the best ballpark for hitters. Definitely a pitcher's park. And we saw, the Mets really came out with the bats today. Obviously, Nimmo going 2 for 4. Alonso 1 for 3 with 2 walks. Vientos 2 for 3 with the walk. McNeil 3 for 5. So really good to see. 9 runs, 13 hits. You'll take that. Pretty much everyone obviously got on base. That started with the exclusion of James McCann, but I'm not going to complain about that. So Mets win 9-2. Bassett with his 15th W of the season. Getting into game 2, the Mets did not have the best of luck. I was luckily in Gainesville during this game, so I didn't catch any of it. And probably a good thing. Jacob deGrom was on the bump for the New York Mets, and deGrom had arguably one of his worst outings that we have seen from Jacob deGrom in quite some time. Obviously, Jacob deGrom comes in 4 innings, 6 hits, 5 runs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts, and only 80 pitches. I'm thinking to myself, what? Did I read this right? I unfortunately did. deGrom got really beat up in that first inning. Obviously, he got onto a lot of 0-2 counts, and the A's hitting was just being very productive, very selective. With deGrom, he did not get a single swing and miss on his fastball. So that is one thing to take into notice, is that his fastball maybe wasn't looking as sharp. His secondary pitches in the slider was definitely not there. Listen, it's rough when you see a guy have an unfortunate outing like this, but it happens. It's baseball, and it happens to the best of pitchers. It happens to Jacob deGrom. It happens to so many of the top-tier pitchers in the game. It's really unfortunate. It really is. This was a game that, it would have been nice to sweep this, unfortunately. But, yeah, like I said, sorry about that, guys. I had to email someone. Yeah, like I said, it's really unfortunate. deGrom got roughed up this outing. And listen, when I see people are saying, should we be worried about Jacob deGrom? No. Performance-wise, no. If there's an injury or something, okay, that makes sense. But I don't think there was anything with injury. I haven't heard any single thing from him. He's expected to make his next start in, 2-3 days or whatever that is. So, yeah, I'm really not worried at all with deGrom. It's an unfortunate outing. I get it. It happens. It sucks that it was Jacob deGrom who had an unfortunate outing. But I'm not going to sit here and panic and say, oh, my goodness, whatever shall we do? No, because it's no need to flip out and saying he wasn't doing well. But, yeah, like I said, it's unfortunate. It really is. You really would have liked deGrom to have a really dominant outing. But it happens. Like I said, it's baseball. Happens to the best of pitchers. They get screwed up. So, yeah, obviously deGrom got into that. Going into the bullpen in the 5th inning, obviously Trevor Williams coming in to try and relieve this like Williams always does, going an inning, 2 hits, a run, a strikeout. Dolly Rodriguez, 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, a run. Big surprise from there. Tyler McGill comes in for 1/3 of a hitter. Adam Ottavino comes in for an inning, 2 hits, a run. And then Trevor May to pitch an inning, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. So not a surprise there. Yeah, like I said, bullpen just really seemed to blow up big time. It's really unfortunate, like I said, considering how well, this team's bullpen has been. But it seems deGrom had a bad day, so it easily translated to the bullpen. And it happens. Like I said, it's baseball. Happens to the bestest of your pitchers. So, yeah, like I said, that was the pitching. In terms of this offense, it scored 4 runs. Getting things started with the offense. In the 1st inning, Francisco Lindor had an RBI sac fly to left field to bring in Jeff McNeil to put the 1st run on the game. Getting into the 2nd, obviously getting into the bat following that, Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso comes on and hits a 2-run homer to left, 410 feet for his 38th of the season, obviously to bring in himself and Mark Canha. And then heading on into the 2nd inning, Mark Vientos has a homer, his solo home run to right, 394 feet for his first home run of his career. So really good to see Mark Vientos have a good series, really hit the ball pretty hard. Definitely something that many Mets fans want to see from Vientos. I mean, like I said, unfortunate day. I mean, when it comes to the pitching, obviously DeGrom's unfortunate start, and then the bullpen kind of gave away the game more. Really unfortunate. The offense, like I said, 4 runs, 9 hits. You'll take that. I mean, there's been thousands of games that the Mets have won this year where they got that run creation, and their pitching just hasn't, their pitching did the job, but it unfortunately did not do the job. So DeGrom gets the L. Big surprise, really. Getting into game 3 and the final game of this 3-game set, the New York Mets win this game big time by a score of 13-4. Mad Max Scherzer goes on the bump, 6 innings, 4 hits, a run, a walk, 7 strikeouts. Total of 91 pitches, with 62 of those were in the strike zone. Really good outing from Scherzer. He looked good. He mixed up his pitches, back foot door slider, goal side slider. Really, really confusing this Oakland Athletics lineup with the chasing and swinging and missing. Really, really loved what I saw from Mad Max Scherzer. Obviously, the length, 6 innings, that was good to see, considering your bullpen was really worked up from the day before. So, like I said, really important and really vital to see Scherzer coming out there and carrying this pitching squad that day. That was huge. Definitely something that was needed. So, yeah, really good to see. Following that, Adam Ottavino came in, going an inning, 2 strikeouts. Tip of the cap to Ottavino. He's been very underrated. Really, Ottavino has been doing extremely well lately. His slider's been looking really good. The break on a slider's been looking really good. So, yeah, hopefully he can continue to keep it up. Following that, Drew Smith came in for an inning, only giving up a hit, got out of it. And then Seth Lugo came out to close this game, who had a little bit of difficulty in the 9th inning, going an inning, 3 hits, 3 runs, a strikeout. But luckily, it was a big enough lead where it did not really matter. Obviously, if it was a close lead, you would have had Diaz come in to pitch. Could you have had Diaz come in to pitch? Regardless, it wasn't going to be a save situation. Maybe you could have used him considering that you had an off day the next day. And Diaz hasn't been used a whole lot lately. Really, he has not been used a lot lately because the Mets haven't really been in save situations. The Mets have really been scoring a lot of runs lately. And that's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but you want to use Diaz. You don't want him just sitting in the bullpen and not pitching. Even if the Mets are winning like this, 13-1, I would still like him out there, considering he hasn't pitched in 3 days before this, and then you have an off day tomorrow. So maybe you could have used Diaz, but you used Lugo. Didn't really do anything crazy. You had a huge enough lead. So really good to see the pitching staff. Good day, only 4 runs in total by them. So really good day for the pitching staff. Getting on into this offense, as stated, you scored 13 runs, so you definitely did something right there. Obviously, scoring those 13 runs with 19 hits, you like to see that. Everyone pretty much got a hit in this lineup, or multiple, I should say. Getting on into the 2nd inning, Tyler Naquin gets things started with an RBI single to center to bring in Pete Alonso. Heading on into the 3rd inning, Eduardo Escobar has an RBI single to center to bring in Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo. So a 2 RBI single, I should say. Heading on into the 4th inning, Francisco Lindor has an RBI double to deep left center to bring in Mark Canha and Brandon Nimmo. Directly following that at bat, Pete Alonso has a 2-run home run to left center, 451 feet, to the farthest of his season by far. Definitely good to see Alonso with some power there. Obviously, that was a historic home run for Pete Alonso and the New York Mets organization, as that breaks the single-season RBI record. Pete Alonso surpassed David Wright and Mike Piazza's 124 RBI record. He obviously had 126 on that. So really good to see Alonso. 125 on that. My apologies. So really good to see Alonso with some more history there, continuing to make history. You like to see it. Heading on into the 8th inning, Francisco Lindor reaches on an infield single to bring in Tomas Nido. Following that at bat, once again, Pete Alonso has a deep RBI double. Pete Alonso has a deep double to right. 3 RBIs come in to bring in Lindor, Nimmo, and Canha. So Alonso was 5 RBI day. You like to see that. A couple of bats later, Eduardo Escobar grounds out to the shortstop, but it brings in Tyler Naquin. So good fundamental baseball. Pete Alonso scores, my apologies. Good fundamental baseball. And then in the ninth inning, once again, Luis Guillorme has an RBI ground out to bring in Tyler Naquin. So like I said, fundamental baseball, you like to see it. Really good stuff. So yeah, like I said, 13 runs, 19 hits. You really like to see that. Really solid stuff from them. So yeah, like I said, Max Scherzer gets his 11th win on the season. You like to see that. Obviously, Mets score 13 runs, 19 hits, something you don't see very often from a lot of teams. And like I said, the Mets had a good day with the long ball. Obviously, when it comes to this game, Alonso going 4 for 5, 3 runs, 5 RBIs. Definitely the MVP of this game by far. Naquin and Nito going 2 for 5. Escobar 3 for 5. Lindor 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs and 3 runs. Canna 2 for 5 with 2 runs. Nimmo 2 for 4 with 3 runs and a walk. So yeah, like I said, the offense really did show up big time. So that is the New York Mets and the Oakland Athletics series summary. Mets took 2 out of 3 from the Oakland A's in Oakland. Potentially their last time playing there, considering if the A's will stay in Oakland. So now the Mets are going back home for a 2-game series against the Miami Marlins. Obviously, the Mets are going into the series with a record of 97 and 57. So 40 games above 500 with a record of 50 and 26 at home. You really like to see that. Definitely good numbers when it comes to that. In terms of the Miami Marlins, they have not been having the best of luck, unfortunately. Give me 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, Marlins have not been having the best of luck. Obviously, 63 and 90 with an away record of 31 and 44. Marlins have been having an unfortunate turn of events, really. Obviously, Don Mattingly was just recently announced to be stepping down mutually. I guess I'll briefly talk about that for a couple seconds. Obviously, Don Mattingly, the Miami Marlins, have mutually decided to depart ways from each other. So that ends Don Mattingly's time as manager for the Miami Marlins, and they will go with a new route. Obviously, when it comes to this, I think Mattingly still definitely is a very good MLB manager to the extent. I think it's hard, with the Marlins, you have so much young depth, so much young talent there. I mean, you have a great young pitching staff. You have a new ace of baseball, in Sandy Alcantara. You look at the rest of that rotation, and you have the young depth in Cabrera, Lopez, Luzardo, some nice lefties in that mix. I think they really, got a nice core there. I mean, they have a great lineup. I mean, whether that's Jazz Chisholm Jr., whether that's Miguel Rojas, great athleticism, whether that's Garrett Cooper, hopefully this team shops this offseason. I think they're really good from being success. They're really close to being a really successful team. It's unfortunate that they didn't really have the season they planned. It happens. It's baseball. But yeah, like I said, Mattingly will no longer be a part of the Miami Marlins organization. He'll be stepping away. From what it sounds like, it seems like he's still interested in managing. So who knows? Maybe he'll go to another team in baseball. Maybe the Giants, maybe the White Sox, depending on what happens, with Gabe Kepler and Tony La Russa. So we'll see. Definitely interesting to see. Comes to the Marlins, I couldn't really tell you any managers off the spot. Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, Marlins, obviously that's the case for them now. But getting into tonight's game, Pablo Lopez will be on the bump for the Miami Marlins. And of course, for the New York Mets, they will have Carlos Cookie Carrasco. Looking at Carrasco's stats this season, he is 15 and 6. Pretty good win-loss record. An ERA at 3.79, a WHIP of 1.30, 145 innings pitched with 147 strikeouts. So you like to see the good strikeout ratio from Carrasco. Slider has been definitely resulting in a lot of strikeouts lately. The lineup is tonight, so I guess I will briefly read it. Obviously, batting first, playing center field, we will have Brandon Nimmo. Batting second, the shortstop, Francisco Lindor. Batting third, the second baseman, Jeff McNeil. Batting fourth in the cleanup spot, the first baseman, Pete Alonso. Batting fifth in the DH role, Daniel Vogelbach. Batting sixth in left field, Mark Canha. Batting seventh, the third baseman, Eduardo Escobar. Batting eighth, the right fielder, Tyler Naquin. And, of course, batting ninth, behind the plate, the catcher, James McCann. So, yeah, I mean, interesting to see this lineup, obviously, since with Starling Marte not being in the lineup. The Mets have really been rolling with that 1, 2, 3 of Nimmo, Lindor, and McNeil. And like I said, I have no problem with McNeil batting third. I think he really has shown great stuff in that number 3 hole and even in the number 2 hole. You know, I think McNeil has really been to the point in his career where McNeil could hit anywhere in this lineup. McNeil is capable of hitting in the first hole, and he's capable of hitting in the 9th hole. That's what type of player Jeff McNeil is. But I think when it comes to driving in runs and just being successful, I mean, you know, all these games are getting really huge now. I really do like McNeil in the 3 hole. So good to see him there. Obviously, the Mets do have, you know, some pretty good numbers against Pablo Lopez. Obviously, Brandon Nimmo, 7 for 22 with 4 ribbies and a homer against him, which translates to a .318 batting average. Jeff McNeil is 9 for 16 against him, 5 ribbies, a home run, which translates to a .563 average. And those are really the biggest sample sizes there. Lindor, 6 for 17, 4 ribbies, a home run, .353 average against him. So we'll see. Those are some pretty good splits. So that is game 1 tonight at 7:10. Now getting into game 2 and the final game of the Marlins this series, which is tomorrow's game at 7:10. The Marlins will have Jesus Luzardo on the bump for the Marlins, lefty. But the Mets have been hitting really well against left-handed pitching lately, so I'm not as nervous about that. So we'll see how the Mets could tackle Luzardo. They do have good numbers against him. And for the New York Mets, they will have Taijuan Walker will be on the bump for the New York Metropolitans. Taijuan Walker, 12-5 on the season, 3.53 ERA, 1.19 WHIP, 148 innings pitched with 114 strikeouts. When it comes to Taijuan Walker, you know, you really want to see him pounding the strike zone, high velocity, pound the zone, get command of the strike zone. You hope that splitter slider's intact, that split finger. The velocity on the split fingers there, and he's throwing it hard, and he's dominating the pinpoint end of the strike zone. So that'll be really good there. And yeah, like I said, yeah, maybe I expect something like 6-7 innings from Walker. Could I guess be appropriate. So yeah, that is the Mets and Marlins projected starters. In terms of who I think will have a good series, I have a couple guys to name that I think will really have a good series, or also continue to have a good series. And I think firstly, I got to start off with Pete Alonso, who was just recently announced the National League Player of the Week. Pete Alonso had a phenomenal week with his last 7 games, 27 at-bats, 10 runs, 8 hits, 4 homers, 14 RBIs, 4 walks, 296 average, 406 OBP, and an 815 slugging. So he's walking, he's getting on base, he's hitting the ball really well, a lot of extra base hits. So yeah, really impressive what we've been seeing with Alonso. He's hitting the ball hard. Definitely been seeing a lot of hard contact from him. So hopefully he could keep it up. So he's my first player to keep an eye out for. Secondly, I have to go Francisco Lindor. Lindor has been having a good bat, and considering he does have good numbers against the Miami Marlins, I think that also validates that reasoning. Francisco Lindor in the last 7 games, in 30 at-bats, has 7 runs, 13 hits, a homer, 9 ribbies, a walk, 433 average, 438 OBP, and a 667 slugging. Lindor's looking good, keeping that tight swing, switch hitter. He's hitting from both sides of the plate. He's looking really good, so hopefully could expect a big series from him against the Miami Marlins. And who should my third and final offensive player be? I'm gonna take Luis Guillorme. I know he's not playing tonight, but maybe he'll play tomorrow, and I think he'll have a decent series. I don't want to go over the sample size because he hasn't really played a lot with the injury and stuff. So I think Guillorme may have a good game tomorrow, or if he comes in under a bench role or something like that. So yeah, hopefully the Mets do have some good stuff there. Obviously, the Mets are playing a 2-game set against the Miami Marlins to finish off the Mets and Marlins series season. And that is the New York Mets and the Oakland Athletics series summary, and the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins series preview. Now we're going to get into some of your guys' comments, questions, concerns. So if you have any comments, if you have any questions, anything related to the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, drop it in the comment section below, and let's get into all of your guys' comments, questions, concerns. And yeah, I'll try to get into all of them. I see you guys are asking a lot of stuff in the chat. Always appreciate that. So I'll try and definitely read all of them if I can. So yeah, so let's stop wasting any more time. And give me 1 second. All righty. Lane, what's going on? Lane says, can the Mets win this game tonight and tomorrow night? Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think that is certainly reasonable. I think you could definitely expect 2 wins from this New York Mets team against a Miami Marlins team that has been struggling a lot lately. So I think it's definitely reasonable. What's going on, everyone? Jed, Alex, Karen, Stoney, Lane. Do you call Alex Ramirez up? Probably not this season. Devin, Peter, Ibindos, Jack, Eric, Trey. Whoops, went down. Sorry. Trey, Jack, Eric, Trey. Trey says I should change it to Narco. I should. Sports fan, what's going on? He says going to be a huge week this weekend. Man, the Braves won't go away. They certainly are not. Lane says, why didn't Jake do good the Mets last Saturday game? Yeah, hopefully you heard my little recap, but big thing really with DeGrom, I guess, just was the fastball. It wasn't really good. Slider wasn't really connecting well. Marco, what's going on? Yeah, obviously Mets are playing against the Marlins tonight, coming off of a 2 out of 3 game series win against the Oakland Athletics. So not really much to go over there. Mets are definitely trying to keep in contention with the NL East, win the division. Hey man, thoughts on my Tigers? Yeah, Alex, Tigers next year. We'll just leave it at that. Kobe, what's going on? He says, hey, Hayden, great series against the A's. Yeah, absolutely, man. Cal says, should Darren Ruff be on the playoff roster? Absolutely not. Considering this dude was brought in mainly to hit left-handed pitching, hasn't been hitting at all. He's offered 0 power. I mean, we're talking, an OPS of like 10. He hasn't been doing anything. Even defensively, he's horrible out there. So, I mean, horrible trade. I think any Met fan would much rather J.D. Davis, but traded 3-4 guys for a 36-year-old that you're probably going to DFA by tomorrow. Gio, what's going on? Stoney, what's going on? He says, Escobar, first Grand Slam. He forgot to say that. Yeah, Escobar does have his first Grand Slam under the book, so good little history there for him. Lane says, how do you feel about the Mets putting Mark Vientos in the playoffs for the Mets this year? Yeah, I mean, I think if he can, he had a good series against the Athletics. I mean, it is the Athletics, so take it with a grain of salt. But, I mean, it's, a little bit better than AAA pitching, or maybe the equivalent of at least. But yeah, I mean, he's shown really good signs, Vientos, with the power. When it comes to Vientos, it's just the strikeouts are really hard. I mean, he gets into a lot of full counts, but just strikes out and stupid pitches for strike 3. So if he could really try and work on that, maybe we could really expect something good out of him there. But yeah, like I said, I think there's the potential of him playing on the, playoff roster. Considering if the fact that Darren Ruff isn't there, that may give more of a reason for Vientos. So we'll see. Hopefully Vientos could have a good next couple games and he could validate that reason. Seth said the GOAT. Stoney says DeGrom is mixing up his pitches too. That could had something to do with it. Yeah, potentially. Cal says, who should be the number 4 starter in the playoffs, Carrasco or Walker? I would honestly say Carlos Carrasco, and I think the biggest reason I would say is just because of that experience. Considering right now, I mean, you have DeGrom, who he hasn't pitched a playoff game since 2015. So, I mean, you really just got Scherzer in there, obviously. So I really would like Carrasco, obviously, for that playoff vibe, for that playoff atmosphere, has experience. And I do really think that's important for the playoffs. That's, if anyone were to ask me, what's my biggest concern for this team going into the playoffs? I mean, it's how some guys like Alonso, McNeil, Nimmo, how are they going to do in the playoffs? I mean, I could see Alonso being either 2 things, either phenomenal, 3 for 4 games, homering, great defense. He could look really well, or I could see him easily going up there, either being stressed and just getting under the ball. It's really a hit or miss. So we'll see. But we're talking about pitching here. I would say Carrasco. I really would. MLB Chatterbox, I am back, man, 100%. Jones, what's going on? He says, hey, man, let's take these 2 games from the Marlins. Yes, sir. Stoney says, Jeff McHits. Yes, sir. Love to hear it. Derpy Gaming, what's going on? He says, Mets versus Guardians wins World Series. Cleveland wins, rub it in Lindor's face. That would be really interesting if the Guardians won. Because obviously you would definitely then see the Mets, Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez, and then vice versa for Carlos Carrasco and Francisco Lindor. So, yeah, I mean, hey, Mets-Guardians World Series is possible. I mean, I would love to see that. I think that'd be an interesting matchup, the battle of, the big blockbuster trade of last year. So that'll be interesting. What's happened? Trey says, will Jeff McNeil win a Gold Glove or Silver Slugger this season? Yeah, I was asked this a couple streams ago. I think he has the potential, obviously, to win a Silver Slugger. Considering that Albies has been out, Chisholm's been out. I get it. McNeil's been a great hitter, but I think that kind of validates him to really winning it. Same for Gold Glove, too. Yeah, Lane, it's possible. I mean, only the World Series. Yeah, I mean, Dose, I agree with you. Scherzer is just, he's a fine wine. I mean, he's like DeGrom. He's like Verlander. He's a fine wine. He gets better with age, and he just goes out there. He dominates, one of the best in the game, trying to add more to his resume for the, Hall of Fame. This is a good question. Connor says, are Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor the best RBI duo in Mets history? I mean, as of right now, I mean, you could definitely make a strong case. I mean, we've seen a lot of duos over the years, Wright and Reyes, Beltran and Wright, add some guys like Delgado to the mix. I mean, we've really seen some great RBI duos in the past, but I think this is by far a really good one. I mean, considering, the run creation, what these guys are capable of. And, them batting back-to-back in the order is just only going to help them both out. So I really do think that this is definitely one of the best RBI duos that I have seen. I think, there are definitely some, memorable ones, but I think this one is by far definitely up there. And, who knows, maybe 2-3 years from now, you get, 2-3 more in the next 2 years, RBI, 100 RBI plus seasons, then absolutely, you can definitely see something like that. Lane says, who goes for the Mets Friday, Saturday, Sunday against the Braves? I'll get into that in a minute because I don't want to change my screen yet. Yeah, I'll get into that in a minute. Don't worry. I'll put it up on my phone, need be. Michael says, can't wait to see the Mets finally play baseball in late October. Yeah, I'm excited for it. Kobe says, if the Mets-Braves series is moved, wouldn't they have announced it by tomorrow? Both teams have an off day Thursday, so they could use it to travel. Yeah, I don't really know what the plan is for them. Obviously, with Hurricane Ian, obviously it's gonna, I think, hit the Georgia-Florida border probably Friday, Thursday. So that may jeopardize Friday's game there, and obviously you don't have time to make it up. Obviously, with the lockout this season, these are games that are being made up practically, and you're not going to have any time. So when it comes to it right now, I mean, maybe you could play in a neutral zone like Texas. I heard, Pittsburgh was one. So we'll see. I mean, could you play in Citi Field? Yes, but it's going to be all Mets fans there. Even if the Braves are the home team, by default, about that. I had some connection issues. Lane says, how do you feel about the Washington Nationals for the game tonight versus the Braves? I don't think there'll be much help. I really don't think there'll be much help. Cal says, would you rather the Mets clinch the division in Atlanta, LOL, or at home versus Washington? I'd honestly rather them clinch probably as soon as possible. So I'd say at Atlanta. As much as I love to do it, as much as I love the Mets to do it at home with all the fans, just get it over with. Get it over with so you can go into that Washington series just kind of relaxed. Paul, what's going on? The Flying Squirrel. Yes, sir. Who do you think the Mets are going to sign in the offseason? Yeah, I'm going to have to take a look, honestly, see what free agents there are. Seth says, will Jeff McNeil win the batting title? Yeah, I mean, I think you can make a strong case for it. I mean, obviously, considering right now, looking at McNeil, what is Jeff McNeil batting? Jeff McNeil is batting 317. And right now, you only have Paul Goldschmidt, who's at 329. So he's just about 12, 13 points ahead of him. So we'll see if McNeil has a really good day, maybe goes 3 for 4 or 4 for 4. Goldschmidt has an unfortunate day, goes 0 for 4. There's a strong possibility. Correct. Trey says Lindor is the first switch-hitting shortstop to ever record 100 RBIs in a season. I did not know that. That's interesting. Can the Mets win the division? Yeah, there's an absolute case for it. Lindor is a beast, 100%. Escobar, I hope, has a good game hitting-wise in this series. Yeah, I mean, I think Escobar should hopefully have a good series. I mean, he's starting to get back to his consistency again, and that's going to be something that the Mets are really going to need to take care of with him. Sports Fan says, should Trevor Williams take over as the extra starter instead of David Peterson? Yeah, I mean, right now when it seems for the playoffs, I mean, I think both of those guys would be in the bullpen, considering, like I said, the depth. But right now, I mean, if it comes to it, let's just say for the next 8 games, someone gets taken out early, or if something happens on Friday due to the weather, you never know. Then, yeah, I would say your number one guy probably could be Trevor Williams. Really just considering how, dominant Trevor Williams has really been looking lately. He's really been looking good on the mound. So, yeah, we will see how he can continue to grow. Lane says, do the Phillies make the playoffs this year? So I think, yeah, they are. I think in that number 6, that final wild card spot. So I think they could definitely make a strong last couple cases for it. Obviously, Phillies are going to have an interesting schedule. Obviously, they're going to be playing the Cubs and Astros. I think those are 2 matchups that could definitely determine, their season. But yeah, we'll see with the Phillies. They've had a little bit of a rough September. They've had a couple rough patches, obviously. Got swept by the Braves, had a couple other rough patches in between. So we'll see. I mean, they got Harper back. So you hope he could try and, fire up the team a little bit more. But yeah, we'll see. Obviously, like I said, they're in that number 6 seed. They're in that number 6 seed for that wild card spot. They only have 8 more games left. So like I said, we'll see. Obviously, 83 and 69. With the Brewers 82 and 71. So, like I said, they're only 2 games back, a game and a half back from them. So we'll see. That's going to be a really interesting matchup there. What's new on the Marte news? So when it comes to Starling Marte, I have not heard much with him lately. They're hoping that he can try and be back really, really soon. You hope he can come back soon. Hasn't played a game since September 6th against the Pirates. So, I mean, it's definitely been a hot minute for Starling Marte. I will say this offense is, I guess, definitely holding up for the most part since Starling Marte's absence. Obviously, he was diagnosed with a non-displaced finger fracture. So, he has been in some kind of discomfort since throwing. So, you don't want to rush him out there, obviously. So, I don't know. Hopefully he can be back in time for the playoffs. I don't know if he'll be back for the Braves series, but at least maybe that last series against the Nationals. So you have him getting ready for the playoffs. Something like that could be nice. Marco says, do you think Buck Showalter will win Manager of the Year? Yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's many other guys in the NL that have done as much of an astonishing job as him. There's some noticeable guys in there, obviously. I mean, Dave Roberts, but it's nothing new. They make it every year, the Dodgers practically. And you have your Craig Counsell's, all those typical guys. So when it comes to it right now, really would be surprised if for whatever reason Showalter is not the NL Manager of the Year. I think really everyone and their mother would honestly project and predict that he is Manager of the Year. So yeah, we're gonna have to see how that goes. As of right now, I project he will. Just what he's done with this team, really what he's done with this lineup, what he's done with this offense, how intelligent he is as a baseball mind, whether it's coming to certain plays that should be done, hitting runs, dropping a ball to get the double play, little stuff like that. He's just a really intelligent guy, and I think by far he definitely deserves to win NL Manager of the Year, and I think he probably will likely win it. Lane says, how do you feel about the Yankees playing in the playoffs? Yeah, I mean, it's not much of a surprise. They're usually in it always. When it comes to them, we'll see how they do. They could be first-round exits or they could win the World Series. Anything's really possible, I feel, with the Yankees right now. You have a hot Aaron Judge. You have a really hot lineup when it comes to home runs. But over the last couple, playoff seasons, that hasn't really been much help to them. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how the Yankees handle this playoff push. It's going to be exciting, obviously. Yankees would either most likely are going to win the division, considering that Blue Jays are 7.5 games back from them. You have a comfortable lead. So they will likely win the division and have the number 2 seed. So with having the number 2 seed, they would still get the first round bye, and they will probably play either the Blue Jays or the Rays. So nice in-division NLDS. So that'll be cool. Kobe says, I bought all my Mets postseason gear. Can't wait to be at Citi Field this October. Yeah, I did buy my Mets postseason cap. That should be coming soon. Snapback was like $40. Hopefully I should be getting that. It's going to take a while. I think they said like October 5th. So hopefully it comes by then. Do you see the Mets playing the Braves in Citi Field? Probably not, just because MLB is probably going to claim like it's impartial. So even if the Braves are the home team, I still don't think they'll do it. I mean, if anything, they'll probably play in like Texas or Pittsburgh, or I have to see what teams are not going to be at their home stadium, but something like that probably. Trey says, should the Mets call back up Dom Smith? I mean, at this rate, considering with Darren Ruff, honestly, is it really going to do anything? I say go for it. Right now, you're not getting anything from Darren Ruff. At least Dom Smith is a better hitter in my eyes from this season, at least compared to Darren Ruff since being a New York Met. I say go for it. I mean, it's not going to do anything worse. At least Dom is capable of, having some hard contact, getting some doubles, hitting some deep balls. Still has yet to have a homer since, 2021 in May or June, whatever. But I'd much rather that than, 0 for 4 Darren Ruff, rally killer. I'd much rather, Dom Smith being the lefty going up against left-handed pitching than Darren Ruff. Yeah. Connor says X factor in the playoffs for our Mets will be the 7, 8, 9 hole in the batting order. Just watch, you'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I definitely think that can be an important X factor, considering if just at random, whether that's like Escobar, whoever, and the catcher. I think something like that, definitely. Those guys coming into clutch and putting up good at bats, producing well, is going to be important. How do you feel about the pitch clock next year? I like it. I mean, this is what I say. For the diehard baseball fan, I don't mind how long games are, but I think for the casual, it's definitely kind of I hate to say it, but I think for a lot of casual fans, I guess it could be boring, according to them. For me, I love it. I could sit at a baseball game for 10 hours and watch a game. But I guess just for the casual baseball fan, I guess it's kind of boring for them. And I guess just MLB wants to speed up the game. I mean, they do it in AAA, and I guess we've been seeing how quicker things have been. But I guess just really comes into play is who does that put pressure on? Does it put pressure on the pitchers or the batters? And I mean, they asked Chris Bassett, and he said it puts pressures on the batters. They asked Francisco Lindor. He said it's going to put pressure on the pitchers. So, I mean, it's really going to see how it comes in next season. I've seen, lineup, double screens of, MLB and, in the minor leagues, and just seeing how quickly the minor leagues go compared to the major league games. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, I'm honestly for it. I think it's good to speed it up. Considering, I guess, more so viewing from the casual fan point of view. I think it's going to be more interesting. Cal says Nimmo should talk to Gore for 10 minutes. LOL, that dude is a base stealing artist. Yeah, they absolutely should. And like I said, I really have no problem with Brandon Nimmo trying to steal more. I think for the rest of this season and the playoffs, I think you got to be a little cognizant, considering, that, his the injuries that he's been struggling with. So obviously I don't think Nimmo is going to be stealing much for the rest of the season, but for the future, I definitely want something, Nimmo to steal more. I think the only deterrent is that he's injury prone. Otherwise, I mean, we've seen his, his speed. He's in, 95th percentile in sprint speed. He's capable of stealing. He's capable of, running. I mean, is he like Starling Marte? Maybe not there, but he's capable of stealing, at least a minimum of 20 bases a year. Kobe says, yeah, you can never have enough guys on the team who could steal bags, especially your leadoff guy. Exactly. Your leadoff guy. That's the role of a leadoff guy, is to get on base and try and make his way around the base paths. And you have something like that. Nimmo gets on, he steals. Boom, you have Marte or whoever the second hole hitter is, and you have a runner in scoring position for him or the third hitter. It breaks up the double play. I mean, there's so many endless possibilities and opportunities for the Mets if Nimmo starts stealing more. I think really Nimmo should be a little bit more aggressive on the base paths. I get it for the rest of this season, maybe be a little cognizant because the injuries, but down the line, I say go for it. And maybe even in the playoffs, because playoffs, every run is going to count. Of course, Tony, I appreciate you tuning in, man. Lane says, who do you see playing on Arizona fall ball this year? I could not tell you, man. Gio, what's going on? He says, how many wins will the Mets finish the season with? They're at 97 now, so they have 8 games left. I'll say like 103. Peter says the Mets seem like they have it all. They are a gritty team that never gives up. Congratulations to Buck Showalter. Yeah, I mean, right now, Buck Showalter has done phenomenal things for this ball club, and the Mets just got that grit. They got that grind. They grind at bats, play good games, good pitching, good defense. I mean, all around a really good team. I mean, there's really not much to go against. Really good team. Lane says, what is news on Joey Lucchesi? So, yeah, right now when it comes to Joey Lucchesi, I haven't heard much from him. I know he's been in AAA rehabbing. They're trying to get him to go multiple innings, which he has been doing lately, so that is good to see. But I think when it comes to him right now, what it's going to be is if he's going to return in time for the playoffs. Obviously, he would still be eligible for the playoff roster. Be nice to have that other lefty in the bullpen. TD, what's going on, man? I appreciate you tuning in. He says LGM, absolutely. Marco says, what should be the 1-2-3 punch for the Mets this postseason? So right now, I think it's pretty simple. I'd say probably DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett. I think that's definitely a deadly 1-2-3 punch right there. I think many Mets fans are expected to see that. I mean, the 1-2 is really not super shocking. The 3-8, maybe you could. I really think it's Bassett all the way, considering how much he's done for you this season. I mean, he's regardless of the health, he's been healthy. He's been the most really consistent pitcher, even health-wise. So I think by far he definitely should be the number 3 starter in the playoffs. And I mean, going into a division series, a 3 to win division series best of 5 with that 1-2-3 punch, whether that's going against the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Braves, whoever. That's a badass 1-2-3 punch. I mean, how much better can you really get than that? So as of right now, I really like that. I think it's a really phenomenal 1-2-3 punch. I mean, and that's a big reason the Mets got guys like Max Scherzer for the playoffs. You have that depth. I mean, you have that back-to-back multi-Cy Young duo. Then you have Chris Bassett. I mean, like I said, Bassett, was with the Oakland A's. They made the playoffs in 2020, 2019. So he has that playoff experience, Chris Bassett, too. So, I mean, you have all these guys have playoff experiences. Obviously, Scherzer and DeGrom have pitched in the World Series. Scherzer has pitched in, more playoff games, obviously. But, I mean, it's important. I really do value playoff experience. If I were to see a young team like the Marlins make it this year, I say, okay, they have no playoff experience. So, I mean, I wonder how would these guys honestly perform, in the playoffs. I really would wonder that. Stone says, how crucial is it for the Mets to win the NL East? Yeah, I mean, I would say it's, pretty crucial to the extent. I mean, obviously, what it comes to it is if you win the NL East, then that means you'd be facing the Cardinals or the Phillies. And the Mets have, a 14-5 something record against the Phillies and 5-2 against the Cardinals. So you have much better numbers against those teams instead of going up against the Dodgers, which I don't need to explain why. I get it. The Mets went 4-3 against the Dodgers, but still, you'd much rather go up against these two teams, take care of business. Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty simple to say. I would much rather them go after them. And, when it comes to it, I think all fans, I've said it again and I'll say it much more. I think all fans want to see their team win the division. I mean, we've seen the Braves win, 5 divisions in a row, something like that. So, I think now definitely a change of scenery, change of a new team, I think could definitely be really good to see. But, when it comes to it, it is crucial, considering how well this team has been. Even if they make the wild card, it's not a collapse. I mean, people are saying, oh, it's not a collapse. Last year, you look at look at the NL West last year. Dodgers, Giants, 108, 107, 106 wins, something like that. Dodgers didn't collapse. They just were, like I said, can't create your family. By that, you can't create your division. It's not your fault that the Braves are in the same division as you. I mean, I'll look at MLB standings right now, and there's divisions out there, like the Guardians. Look at the Guardians in, the AL Central. 86 wins, and they win the division. I mean, that would be right now our third place spot in the NL East. And the Phillies are 83 and 69. So, I mean, like I said, you can't create your family. You can't help that the Braves are also really dominant, and the Braves can't help that the Mets are really dominant. Put it in both perspectives. So, I mean, right now, we're going to have to see how things go for both of these teams. It's going to be really interesting. Really is. It's going to be exciting to see how the next couple weeks go. I'm really super excited to, really see it. Do you see the Dodgers playing the Mets? Yeah, definitely in the NLCS if that comes. Will the Mets wear the black playoff? Will the Mets wear black uniforms in the playoffs? Probably. Yeah, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't. I definitely, I don't see a reason why they wouldn't. That's cool, man. So if you guys have any more comments, questions, any other concerns, don't hesitate. Drop it in the comment section below. We're having a great stream. Obviously, Mets and Marlins game is starting in a bit, so we'll probably stay on for another 5 or so minutes. Trey says, I really like Terrence Gore. I think the Mets should really consider keeping him as he can offer great speed. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, he's a guy who really does offer, simply enough, great speed. And I mean, you look at the playoffs this year, you're going to want great speed. I mean, as a Mets fan, it's partial. It's hard to say, but what happened in 2015 with the Royals? They destroyed the Mets. Why? Because they had dominant base running. And I think simply enough, the Mets are going to need that dominant base running. And I think obviously simply enough, Terrence Gore is definitely a great contributor to that. So right now, I really would like to see Terrence Gore continue to steal bases for this team, considering you only have so many guys. So we'll see how Terrence Gore does with the Mets. I get it. He's not really like, crazy offensive guy. I mean, he only has 15 career hits and 46 stolen bases. Somehow has 3 World Series rings. Hopefully he'll get his 4th this year. We'll see. But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see how Terrence Gore is. Chris, what's going on, man? I appreciate you tuning in. He says, howdy. I could make a stream for once. West Coast problems. I feel you, man. You're all good. Appreciate you tuning in. Definitely been a minute. Do you want the Red Sox to do good next year? Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much of a problem with the Red Sox. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a problem with the Red Sox. I mean, I don't know what the plan is for the Red Sox. I know they've mathematically have been eliminated from the playoffs. Really unfortunate. High expectations for them this season. 71 and 82. So that's going to put them 5th in the AL East. Yeah, really unfortunate. Unfortunate year for them, obviously. Last year, things really got big with them. But a lot of their, younglings, I guess, were not able to step up. Pitching kind of let them down a little bit. It happens. So we'll see with the Red Sox. But yeah, I have no problem. I mean, I really do like the Rays, obviously. Orioles, I think, are going to be a great team to come. Trey says, when you go back to Stetson? Yeah, so if you guys didn't catch in the beginning of the stream, I said that I'm home. I'm in my room. Why is that? My dorm was closed. Well, not my dorm, but all my classes were canceled for the rest of the week. So I'm like, you know what? May as well just go home. It's better than, just sitting in the frat house, all day. So I was like, all right, I'll come home. Took a bus ride back today, 5-hour bus ride. That was fun. back down. Just got home about 2 hours ago, and I was like, damn it, I got to do a live stream. So came running on here. Pretty good viewership, so I appreciate you guys, and great comments, questions, obviously, in the chat today. But Trey, I probably will be going back Sunday. So probably you'll see one more stream from my room. I know I definitely love streaming in my room. Like, I know it's not bad in my dorm. Like, I know I have like my Mets flag, and I have another Alonso poster that I bought and another Mets pennant, but it's just like, I stream on this little, computer, and it's like, here I stream on my huge desktop, so I have all my space. I could, put the comments here, my camera here. It's easier. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the most knowledgeable when it comes to hurricanes, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, I believe it's a tropical storm, Category 3, I believe. Weather talk with Hayden, but yeah, we'll see. What do you do next year for the Mets? Yeah, I mean, we'll see how far the Mets make it. I think that's the number one thing to say right now. We'll see how far the Mets make it, and we'll judge it off of there most likely. Give me 1 second. Sorry. The Mets game is coming on now. Yes, the Mets game will be starting momentarily. So I am going to call it a stream here so we can catch the Met game. I'll let all you guys at home go relax, watch that. Of course, myself, going to watch the Met game. Super excited. Game starts at 7:10 Eastern, so 10 minutes. The Gary and Jerry Blevins will be the caller commentator today, so that'll be really nice. So those two guys will be on air in SNY calling the game. So I'm going to go catch that. But yeah, otherwise, I really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream. As always, really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, in today's stream, we went over the New York Mets and the Oakland Athletics series summary. So we summarized that. Then, of course, we went into the New York Mets and the Miami Marlins series preview. So we went over all that great stuff. Then, of course, we went into your guys' comments, questions, concerns, talking about, what it would look like for the Mets in the playoffs, and, of course, all of that great stuff. So, yeah, really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream. As always, like I said, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, drop them in the comment section below. If you are rewatching this on replay, kudos to you for staying out for the hour. Really do appreciate it. Definitely, you're a legend for that. And yeah, like I said, if you want to follow me on any of my social medias, there it is. You could follow me on Twitter, which is probably my best way if you want to communicate, talk about baseball, see when my live streams are coming out. If you want to talk to me on Instagram, I don't really post on it a lot, but I use it for, stories, stuff like that. So yeah, you can follow me on all of that great stuff. So yeah, otherwise, I really do appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream. What happened to Keith? I think he got hurt, so I think he's taking a little break. But yeah, really do appreciate everyone for tuning in to today's stream, as always, once again. Otherwise, yeah, that'll be it for me, LFGM. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.